Subscribe to our channel by clicking the subscribe button. Click the bell button and enjoy the latest uploads from our channel.
Nick Robertson is CNN's international diplomatic editor. The opinions in this article belong to the author. Donald Trump came to Helsinki to clear his name of collusion. Instead, he soiled it and with it, dragged the world further down a path toward previously unthinkable instability. It is 70 years since the future of the Western Democratic Alliance has been so precariously and ambiguously poised between chaos and certainty. Standing next to Putin following their secretive 2-hour meeting, it seemed the pair wanted nothing more than deny they ever knew each other before Trump's election. Yet in a rare fumble, Putin admitted he wanted Trump to win the tarnished 2016 U.S. election that Putin's intelligence agents are indicted with interfering in. "Yes, I did," he told a stunned audience. This perhaps was not so much a concession, rather an overexuberance born not out of his KGB training that teaches always to remain in control of emotions, but of a job well done undermining his biggest global adversary, setting in motion fractures that will further cleave America from its traditional allies. As Putin left Helsinki, his foreign minister captured the Russian mood, calling the day magnificent and better than super. Only days earlier, Donald Trump had sat in Winston Churchill's chair in the house where the great British wartime leader was born. He struck a pose that suggested he was reliving those moments where Churchill's resolve was all that stood between the chaos and calamity. It feels appropriate to paraphrase Britain's best-loved leader to understand President Trump's utter failure to deliver on U.S. national security interests and that of its allies in Helsinki. Never before in the field of presidential summits has one leader given so much for so little at the cost of so many. Trump's capitulation to Putin's lies on live TV watched by millions across the world is sending diplomatic shockwaves way beyond Washington. In the hours following the summit, there was the stunning sound of silence from Trump's European allies. Had he stood up to Putin and warned him not to attack the U.S. by interfering in its elections again, there may well have been more applause from Berlin and London. Russia stands accused of interfering in elections in these countries too. A message for one, a message for all. Leaving Washington last week, Trump said his meeting with Putin would be the easiest of his trip to Europe, easier than his meetings at NATO or in the UK. No one could have imagined that his 7 days in Europe, ripping through his allies, lambasting German Chancellor Angela Merkel and undermining British Prime Minister Theresa May, would end with him being given a football by Putin that he'll pass on to his son. Not only has Trump betrayed U.S. intelligence services, not so much putting America first, but putting himself first, he is betraying his allies. If he doesn't believe his own intelligence services, the logic follows: how can he be trusted to believe his allies' intelligence services and what those leaders tell him? How can they harness their national strategic security interests to the U.S. if Trump doesn't look out for his own and they have no idea where he is going? Trump's recent confrontations over trade tariffs, his offhand comments this weekend that the EU is a foe of the United States, now coupled with the denouement of his diplomatic integrity at Putin's feet, will look to many like the start of a new world order. As bipartisan opprobrium rains down on Trump in the U.S., his European allies are beginning to crystallize their thinking. At NATO headquarters, Trump indicated he was way more inclined to side with Putin over his illegal 2014 annexation of Crimea than his allies. When asked at a news conference last Thursday if he would recognize Russia's Crimea as part of Russia, he responded that an interesting question, because long before I got here President Obama let that happen. His allies had heard that line before. But what came next was the shocker: the idea that Putin had spent money in Crimea might somehow give him legitimacy. They just opened a big bridge that was started years ago. They built, I think, a submarine port adding billions of dollars, Trump told the crowded room. A minute later he was asked, will you consider stopping military exercises in the Baltic states? When Trump met North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un in Singapore last month, he surprised his South Korean allies by unilaterally giving Kim the concession of stopping joint military exercises. The equivalent for NATO would be backing down on joint military exercises in the Baltic states Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. They are on the front line with Russia and fear their own Crimea moment may be around the corner. NATO has a tripwire force in each of the Baltic states, about 1,000 or so troops to send a figurative flare should there be a Russian